States in one place that is not as secured as the United States Capitol.
As decided by the Trump White House.
And the Hilton is not secure. It's just not secure. I'm not going to go into the details of all the things that Iran could have done to push back. It doesn't take an imagination to figure that out, but it would have been very easy to do. So they cannot go back to the Hilton. It is a national security risk. That said, building the Marie Antoinette Ballroom is not the reaction to that on keeping things more secure. You have to find better locations. You could
make better decisions about security at that event.
At that event.
Through the administration, which put it at a lower level.
I've got to say,
Seth, Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, the President of the United States, Kash Patel, all in the same room? Are you kidding?
Scott Bessent in an old hotel that just wasn't secure. Other Republicans also less enthusiastic about the Lindsey plan, among them Senators Rand Paul, Josh Hawley, Rick Scott, and others who say private funding is the right way to go. And Senator Scott said, we have a $39 trillion debt. Maybe we ought to stop spending money. So far, the only Democrat, John Fetterman, has come out in favor of the project. But, you know, John Lemire, how do you sit back and talk about security when the Washington Post is reporting that they actually had less security at this dinner by choice, by the White House's choice, than they should have had? I mean, we're at a stage now where the stakes are so much higher, especially after all of the blunders in Butler, Pennsylvania, which I must say still baffle me. I'm still stunned by the mistakes of Butler, Pennsylvania. And I'm still surprised what happened at the Hilton the other night. But you look at drone warfare, you look at all the other capabilities that we've seen break out in the Ukraine-Russia war. We are going to have to take a second look at not only what events we do, but how we run our national campaigns, how we secure presidential candidates, how we secure audiences for presidential candidates, because the whole world has changed. But that said, all of these Republicans blindly following the talking points the White House put out right after the shooting is really a bit insulting, and even some Republicans are calling that out. Yes, we need the president safe. We need the president secure. That does not mean we need to blindly throw taxpayer money at this time at one of the president's pet projects.
Yeah, and let's just be clear about a couple of things. Even if the ballroom existed now, the White House Correspondents' Dinner would not be there. It is not a White House event. It's a different organization. And there are questions about the coziness of that weekend to begin with, but that's a line that would never be crossed. The Correspondents Association is not going to hold its event in a government building, particularly the White House, the man that, who they cover, his home. That's just not going to happen. Secondly, the president has actually said repeatedly, I mean, there have been questions about it, but the ballroom would be funded with private money. Has not asked, at least not publicly, for government funding on this. But now Senator Graham is seemingly eager to give him that. And this isn't going to happen, though. I mean, enough Republicans have already come out against it. This seems like a non-starter. It's Lindsey Graham currying favor with the commander in chief. But Willie, it does just speak again, though, to as Joe was saying, the blind loyalty from so many Republicans that also makes them, we keep coming back to this theme, seem out of touch. Like, why is this your priority? Why are you focused on a ballroom? The national security argument is nonsense. Why are you doing that as opposed to doing things that actually improve voters' lives?
And in the immediate aftermath, presumably a traumatic event, standing in your tuxedo in the briefing room and going right to this issue, talking about the ballroom. I mean, it's not surprising, of course, that Senator Graham is carrying water for President Trump. That seems to be his job. But the question is, are they all saying, is Lindsey Graham saying, is the president saying the president's never going to leave the White House again? Because, of course, there are security questions anytime he leaves the White House to go anywhere. Do they want to create a bubble where he goes from the residence to the Oval and then occasionally at night over to the ballroom? That seems to be what they're saying, rather than saying, hey, let's have this event at a more secure place when we do it in the future. Let's bring in contributing writer to The Atlantic, Eugene Robinson, and politics bureau chief and senior political columnist at Politico, Jonathan Martin. J. Mart, let's start with you on this. Just your reaction to what happened on Saturday night, and also now this conversation about the ballroom. As Joe said, the talking points almost verbatim went out from a group of supporters of the president, politicians, podcasters, with the same phrase: we must have the ballroom. Effectively, if you don't think we should have a ballroom now, you hate America and you hate the president.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say it's the most profound call for justice in the history of the Western world. We must build the ballroom now. When do we want the ballroom? When do we want it? Tomorrow. I can't really hear the chant, but I think something that's sort of being forgotten here is the American taxpayer is not crying out to subsidize the D.C. banquet circuit in perpetuity. I think people forget this. You build a ballroom on the White House grounds. Guess what? You're going to have to pay for the grounds crew, for the wait staff, for the security. Are you telling me that the American taxpayer for decades to come is going to be on the hook for every damn D.C. fancy dinner? I can't think of anything that the American voter would like less than subsidizing the press and politicians for putting on black tie and partying together in D.C. That probably would test at like 397. If I had to guess, Willie. So I think this is not that well thought through, but understandably, I think there's an instinct to try to find a way to create some better security measures in light of what happened on Saturday night. It clearly, in hindsight, is regrettable that you had the entire government in one room, given the threat there and given the lack of security around the Hilton. I'm just skeptical that the answer is having taxpayers subsidize a series of events for decade and decade in which D.C. elites are going to put on black tie and hang out. Doesn't seem to me to be a good use of taxpayer money.
Yeah, and Gene, I don't think the White House Correspondents' Press Association would do this anyway. They wouldn't accept that there was going to be some kind of event at the White House.
No, they wouldn't. They would never have the event at the White House. And I don't think
the president would like this. The president likes getting out around the country. So what, you're going to keep the president confined to the White House compound for the whole of his 4-year tenure in order to ensure 100% guaranteed security? You can't do that if you have a president, and any presidents want to go out and travel around the country.
You can't do that. What you could do, for example, is at least put the highest security designation on an event like the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where when you know it's at the Hilton, which everyone knows is not a really secure place. I mean, there are so many entrances and exits. It's very difficult to manage that space. So I would have thought that it would certainly have rated the highest security designation. I don't understand how that happened. And so we need to know that. The ballroom is just a complete boondoggle to begin with. Number one, I think it's not needed at all. You don't need a huge ballroom at the White House. I think one of the charms and one of the great things about the White House is its lack of that kind of grandeur, and the fact that it's a house. And it has a big room where you can have a dinner. You know, I went to one state dinner, and it was under Obama, and it was a state dinner for China. They did it inside the White House itself, in the East Room. There were about 200 people there. If you can do a state dinner for China inside the building, you could do a state dinner for anybody inside the building. You don't need this huge Marie Antoinette appendage, yet he's determined to have it.
You know, Caddy, there's so many things you could actually help us on here. First of all, you talk about the ongoing battle with British taxpayers, complaining about the upkeep for Buckingham Palace, the upkeep for all of the royal residences. That's something that the British taxpayers have had 1,000 years to get used to. Americans, not so much. This, I think, will be an ongoing problem here. Secondly, though, the royalty does have Buckingham Palace. And yet, King Charles, obviously, as we know, gets out of it. And he goes to places that have to be secured. Queen Elizabeth II constantly was going out and doing ribbon cuttings, doing garden parties. And by the way, they were active targets of the IRA for decades. I mean, you look at what happened to Lord Mountbatten. They constantly were under attack by the IRA. So it's not like, oh, they're royals, nobody would want to kill them. No, there was people actively wanted to kill them all the time. But they didn't just build a palace and stay inside there. And this idea, this Republican idea that somehow Donald Trump is going to be like a king, they're going to build a ballroom and he will be forever secure, is just nonsense. It is a false choice, isn't it?
Yeah. This is the moment where I'm allowed to gratuitously mention that I was at the garden party yesterday at the British Embassy for the King and Queen.
Exactly.
And, show the picture. Yeah.
And then
show the picture.
But the security, you had the King and Queen of Great Britain at a garden party with 600 people, fully outdoors. I'm sure there was security, but it wasn't a security that felt oppressive in any way. We had our bags checked briefly. We had our IDs checked. And the whole thing went off as planned. But imagine if the King and Queen couldn't do that visit. Imagine if a president couldn't do what the president wants to do because for some reason you want to guarantee his absolute security, and so they're never allowed to leave some hermetically sealed bubble. I mean, there's a risk with these people being remote from their publics as it is. I mean, there's a risk from the king being remote from his people. There's a risk of a president not being in touch with his people. If you try to guarantee, you cannot guarantee 100% security for any principal unless, you stick them in a room and never let them leave.
Was the Ted Cruz photobomb of that picture planned, Kathy? Because it's a great,
good, wasn't it?
Great Ted Cruz shot behind you.
I took Ted Cruz Lutnick.
Was that AI or was that real?
No.
Look, there he is. You can see him.
I'm not a journalist for nothing. I knew he was standing behind me. I liked, and Lutnick was there too.
Oh, Howard Lutnick's right there too.
Queuing for a long time to shake hands with the monarch. May I just say?
Hey,
you love
J-Mart.
us still.
Yeah, Mike.
We like to think not.
J-Mart, I have a question for you, and for anybody who can answer this question. I've never had it answered, and I've asked it several times with regard to the ballroom. How is it that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, got away with literally overnight destroying the White House, tearing down the White House? It's not his house. It doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the American taxpayers, and yet nobody has really said anything. I've seen larger projects and smaller projects from state to state tied up by the courts, and they never happen. How is it that this has happened?
Because he can, is the short answer. The longer answer is because the law is somewhat vague on this, and he's not going to wait for the vagaries of the law. He's going to start the construction, which is what he did. I think there were plenty of folks in Congress who didn't like it. They weren't sure what they could do, but it was too late once the bulldozers came in, and there wasn't much they could do about it. Look, I think part of the challenge with not having either chamber of Congress, Mike, is that you can't use the appropriations process. As Joe knows, when you pass the annual spending bills, you oftentimes can pass these riders to the bills in which no money shall be spent for this purposes. And I think if Democrats had at least one chamber of Congress, you certainly would have seen an effort to amend the spending bills for the federal government to block any use of federal dollars to dynamite the East Wing. And they couldn't get that through. They don't have a majority in either chamber of Congress, obviously. Now, what's interesting, guys, is if Democrats do have the Congress next year, I'm sure you will see an effort in spending bills beginning in 2027 to bar any federal dollars for fill in the blank, the new ballroom, the Arc de Triomphe, any kind of anything related to Trumpian grandeur. I assume Democrats in Congress are going to try to block.
Yeah, and just to Mike's question, by the way, remember that Trump lied. He said, we're not going to tear anything down, right? He said there's going to be construction, but we're not going to destroy anything. And then, almost in the dead of night, he just tore down the East Wing, and it was a fait accompli. By the time anybody knew what was happening, the machines had torn down half the building.
Like the Colts leaving Baltimore in the middle of the night.
Exactly,
he
pulled in Irsay.
Exactly.
All right.
Boy,
Politicos.
that is low comparing him to Irsay.
Sorry.
Politicos, Jonathan Martin, thank you very much for coming on this morning. There you go. And still ahead on Morning Joe, what does Fernando Mendoza... Joining us now, the host of the podcast On Brand with Donnie Deutsch. Donnie Deutsch.
Donnie.
So, Donnie.
Yeah, Donnie. We're
going to start with
Yeah, Mendoza and LinkedIn, man. I had no idea, but this young kid, great quarterback, he hasn't been going on TikTok to make his announcements over the past 4 years. He's been going on LinkedIn. Talk about it.
Yeah, huge brand up for Mendoza and LinkedIn. Right after he was picked as the #1 pick, the first commercial break, you saw him. He was with his family. They shot him with his family. And he said, he changed his status on LinkedIn. He said, ready to get to work. Very meta, very real, very authentic. He's been on this for years. He announced going to Cal when he was on it. And this is just a real, authentic endorsement deal. As far as Mendoza himself, I think he's going to be beyond a great quarterback, one of the great endorsers in the level of Arnold Palmer, Michael Jordan, Peyton Manning. He's a lovable kid. He loves his parents, his brother. I think he's going to be a huge, huge endorser.
Yeah, he's got sort of a dorky charm to him.
Yeah.
But he's got to perform in order to get those deals. Donnie, let's go down to here's a brand down issue. Not funding science programs that include the word women.
Yeah, brand down for not funding science programs that include the word women. This is hard to believe. Trump actually said last year, he said to the NIH, anything that has the word woman in it as far as the scientific funding, pull back on the funding. And certainly, and sure enough, the Washington Post did a study, 31% decrease in funding for women's science issues. Women have always been underfunded as far as science research, and this is just you can't believe it. It's unfathomable. Inexplicable, as they used to say in my neighborhood.
That's exactly
inexplicable.
Right. So, brand up, animal adoptions.
Yeah, this is a nice story.
Going after puppies and what's the deal?
Mika, this is a nice story for you. Huge brand up for animal adoptions. 4 million dogs and cats were adopted last year. 90% what they call living status, whereas only 10% of dogs and cats that go in don't make it out, and that's because of behavior issues or health issues. 2/3 of all shelters have that 90% positive rate, and this is a great story. I think it's a lot of it has to do with people looking for comfort. They're looking for comfort food. They're looking for comfort animals, but a great story. Animal adoptions up.
All right, so Donnie, this one, drone pizza delivery. Give us your verdict.
Joe, this is for you. If you were in New Jersey, you'd be a happy guy right now. Huge brand up for drone pizza deliveries. Basically, last month in Morristown, New Jersey, the first pizza delivery, 3 miles, they delivered a pizza. It was called Pizza X Day. There's groceries had been delivered a few weeks before, but this is the first pizza delivery. I can't get over the thought of looking up in the sky and seeing pizza and diapers and razor blades and everything being delivered. I'm not quite sure what the FAA thinks about it, but good news for the pepperoni pizza lovers of the world.
Let's talk about fluoride. Here you have fluoride brand up. This is RFK Jr., who has suckered millions and millions of people with his conspiracy theories, his pseudoscience, just straight out. It's just straight out pure bullshit that goes against science, research, medicine. And when you ask people, well, but it goes against, he doesn't have any scientific background or medical background. They go, oh, yeah, well, that's good. Oh, really? Is that what they say when they take their children or their parents to an emergency room? Oh, please get us somebody that has absolutely no medical background, that knows nothing about science, that gets their information while sitting on the toilet and scanning like conspiracy websites. It drives me crazy. Yeah. And you look at vaccines, you look at measles, you look at kids dying, and now even fluoride. Like, we used to make fun of right-wing kooks that used to say, oh, fluoride, well, let's get it out of your water. And now this is being adopted by the head of HHS.
Yeah, RFK gets a Hall of Fame brand down. He came out last month and basically said to the CDC he doesn't want them endorsing fluoride in water. Certainly research says the complete opposite. It helps with tooth decay. It needs to be in the water. It's frightening that this is the guy that's head of HHS. It's embarrassing. I feel sad for the country.
Yeah, couldn't be more right about that. Let's talk about chat bots and getting too chatty with them. Some real dangers there.
Yeah, brand down for putting your financial information in chat boxes. This is news you can use. We always do a news you can use every week in our brand up, brand down segment. This is very serious.
Viewers love it.
55%, they do love it. 55% of Americans use ChatGPT or one of the other AI platforms to help with financial advice, to help with financial planning, to help with investing, to help with, they even upload their taxes in there, which is very. Do not put your name in there. Do not put your workplace in there. People are getting their hands on this information. It is really dangerous, but people are putting their actual tax documents online, on chat. and it's a real problem. Put the privacy button on. Do not do this. Stay away from using ChatGPT for too much specific financial information.
So the next one is brand up about a word I've never heard before. Mogging.
Mogging. You hear it now.
What is mogging?
I'll tell you what mogging is. As a Yankee fan, I will mog you guys as Boston Red Sox fans. That means showing you superiority, showing you better confidence, you're better looking, you're stronger, you're better. When somebody mogs somebody else, they've got one up on them. Elisa Liu, the gold medalist, the Olympic gold medalist, famously came out and said, I just want to mog. Joe, anybody want to mog?
No, absolutely not. I'm anti-mogging. I'm about loving people regardless of whether they use feet fillers or not.
What?
That's a great segue. Brand down for feet fillers. No, this is
Thank
true.
God.
30% of people over the age of 60, they lose that fatty tissue in the bottom of their foot. And women who have problem walking in high heels are getting filler, the filler that they traditionally use to plump up their face, to plump up their feet. I just report in the news. Don't mock me. This is actually a true story.
You, podiatrist?
Podiatrist uses it. Podiatrists are using it. This is actually
what's going on at the door. I also saw a lot of very strong, physically strong, really attractive law enforcement people come through those doors.
Does that matter? Is that part of how attractive? Look, I don't want my life saved by a 6.
Oh.
Don't know why he does that.
It's questionable. I mean, I just.
They're very attractive. Let's bring in now our own very attractive MS Now contributor, Mike Barnacle. Look at him. And also the host of Pablo Torre Finds Out. MS Now contributor Pablo Torre. Let's just get this out of the way right now, Barnacle and Lemire. Today is day 2 of Boston held hostage. And I do not want to hear, oh, well, Cora's gone and we've won 2 games. By the way, Suarez has had while Cora was there, had 2 outings where he was lights out. And he was lights out again last night. And as far as scoring runs, the Blue Jays, who I fell in love with during the World Series last year, Mike, they played like the bad news Bears last night. I'm telling you, a JV team from Lemire's old hometown could have beaten the Blue Jays last night.
Yeah, but they're still a Major League Baseball team, and Ranger Suarez shut him down. He no-hitter through 6 innings.